All right, perfect. Well, thank you again for joining me and for agreeing to uh, getting together today, and welcome everyone, especially of course Sharon. I just wanted to start off by it's actually great to meet today. I just wanted to do a little introduction. Could you tell us more about Sharon, your job, your goals, and yeah, share a little bit more about that.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Diego. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to do this. So, my name's Sharon Giovinazzo. I'm the president and CEO at World Services for the Blind, located in Little Rock, Arkansas, and we're a large residential facility, world's most comprehensive facility serving people who are blind in vocational training. So we do all the pre-vocational orientation and mobility, everything that you need in the blindness basics, but also we have some extensive career tracks. So for me, I've been blind for 20 years, lost my vision at the age of 31, had absolutely positively no marketable skills as a person who was blind. Started off on the manufacturing line, packaging gloves for Transportation Security Administration in upstate New York. And 14 years later, I have the opportunity to sit in the CEO's chair and lead an organization. And you know what? I've got a great partner. I wear it right here on my wrist, and I bet you we're going to be talking about this, huh?
Absolutely, yes. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. So basically, you started out in the manufacturing field, and did at some point cross your mind where you wanted to be in 14 years later, or did you have a clear path of where you wanted to go? Um,
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, who has a clear path? Come on. So, I was in the blah, blah, blah. Words are hard on a Saturday. I was in the military and I was a combat medic in the Army. And I worked in the medical field for a number of years. And I was diagnosed with MS in May of 2001. And so I went to the rehab agency, Central Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired in upstate New York. And I had to learn how to be a blind person. I mean, I had to learn all those basic skills. And I started off on the manufacturing line because I simply had no marketable skills as a person who was blind. Everything that I had, leadership and all that, it's all transferable, but not until you can take care of those most basic needs. And so I simply had to learn. Had a high school diploma, was getting ready to go back to become an RN, so I could work as a registered nurse. But chasing a person with a red and white cane in one hand and a needle in the other, they do a lot more damage when they jump out the window trying to get away from you. And so I just needed a focus at that point. So at that point, I knew that I could use a computer and I knew I could talk. God only if I got paid by the word, Diego, it would be great. And but I didn't know what that path was going to be. And the path just kind of defined itself. I was still working on the manufacturing line. And I'll tell you how I kind of fell into this. I knew manufacturing wouldn't be the only option that I ever had. I knew that it would be a building block. You don't just make it to the CEO's chair, no matter who you are or where you are, unless, you start off with a master's degree or a doctorate in that. There's steps to get there. And I hear so many people who say, oh, one of these days I want to be a business owner. I want to do, you got to work your way through the trenches on that. And I did, packaging gloves, sewing. Then I moved and I started doing computer training and employment placement. Then I went to DC and became a lobbyist for National Industries for the Blind. Then North Carolina became a vice president. So the path kind of lit its own way. And I just followed that because, as badly as I said, well, I know there's other things out there for me to do, and I want to go out and try those. The field just kept on calling me back because I knew that the stuff that had been given to me and I knew what was available. I had no idea that all this world existed back in 2001 until I was introduced to that first agency. And, it's kind of amazing when you think about it that, it was almost like it was a secret world. And if it hadn't been for somebody referring me to that agency, I'd probably still be out here, wandering around and who knows what I'd be doing. I mean, and we see that so much that when people don't get those connections made. So my path lit itself, and I just kind of followed it, and I followed instinct, and I just did what I felt like I was called to do. I say blindness has been a blessing to me, because I made it a career. I mean, how much worse can this be? It's my life. I live it, eat it, breathe it. And so if that was the purpose for all this happening 20 years ago, then so be it. Then here I am. So
Wow, amazing. So, what would be, let's say, if you had the chance to give yourself some advice to Sharon of 2001, what would it be?
oh my goodness, if I had to give myself advice as a 2000, don't understand that each journey begins with just one step. And I use that in keynote speeches a lot. And I never thought about giving myself back 20 years ago that advice. But I remember very clearly the first time that I went on an orientation and mobility lesson. The first time we went around the block, the second time it was when it was time to step off the curb and cross the street. That was a scary place to be. I mean, it really was, because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get run over by a car and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, I'm just this blind person walking around with a stick, and I might as well have a target on my back, but no, I mean, it was just one of those things. It's like, understand that each step in that journey, sure, you're going to run across roadblocks, trip over rocks, a tree's going to come and hit you in the head, something's going to happen, but that's life. That's life for everybody else out there, not just the blindness. It's just every once in a while, without the right tools in our hands, it's hard for us to detect those obstacles. And so if we're arming people with the right tools and the right knowledge to overcome those obstacles, then we're all the better off. And that's one of the things that I think that I can do, is that if I can continue to pay this forward, and, not only that, darn it, Diego, I just love what I do. I know what my why is every day because I get to live it.
I mean, well, that's actually very, very important, and I think that is something that everybody should be asking themselves. Why do I want to do what I want to do? And that's, I would say that's a first, the first part of the journey, knowing why, right? That way, it will become a lot easier for you to go on that path, right?
Right. I learned that lesson at a young age. So, funny story. At the age of 9, I ripped the postcard out of the TD guide, and it was U.S. Army, be all you can be. And I took it to my daddy. Now, remember, I'm 9 years old. And I told him, I said, Daddy, I said, I want to be a soldier when I grow up. I said, I know they won't be rich and famous. And he told me, my dad was third grade educated, and he was a dairy farmer. He says, if you have a mission in your life and you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And so, you have to find that happiness, because look at how much time we spend at work. You got to have that happiness, and you got to be able to say, this is what my calling is. Because let me tell you, life just zooms by at that point in time, and you could walk around with a smile on your face. And, I can walk around with a smile on my face all the time, even during those sad times, during those hard times and all that, because I know what I'm doing and I know what that greater purpose is. So, life is all about each individual brushstroke, but you got to take a look at that big picture. If that big picture is something that you really, really like and this is what you want, go for it. Start painting your picture.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's actually strong uh, feedback there. And well, the reason I was asking at some point, what would be your advice to your younger self, is because I believe, and I've been working for the visually impaired community for quite some time now, and there are still people who kind of struggle with the motivation or with with the willpower, I'm going to call it that, to pursue their dreams or their aspirations. So what would be feedback specifically for these people?
Well, it's really easy to get discouraged. And, number one, when you think about it, the system isn't set up to encourage people to go out and pursue their dreams, especially when it comes to the disability community. You think about, for me, at the age of 31, having lost my sight, I had worked my whole life, and you go out and you apply for benefits. I'm just going to use this as an example. And then they tell you that you can't work. And then they tell you to go to work, but they put all these restrictions on you. And, I kind of liken it to, it's the same thing as when people are in prison, that it's that rehabilitation. Where do you get over that hump to be able to make the life that you want? And, it's a hard place to be in, but you've gotta be determined enough to say, this is what I want. And then how are you going to get it? And there's a lot of things out there. The biggest part about blindness and when it becomes a disability is having lack of access to information and resources. There's plenty of us out here who can help you get the information and the resources that you need. And to be able to circumnavigate that, when you don't know what you don't know, it's really hard to go for it and say, well, something, I want to do this. And I was like, how am I going to, I didn't know how I was going to cross the street. Never mind how I was going to go to work or college or become the CEO or travel around the world. I just kind of thought that I was going to be sitting on my front porch in my rocking chair. And Diego, between you and me and whoever else is on, I'd like to have a day every once in a while where I could sit on my front porch in my rocking chair. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe everyone. That's why I love Sundays in the afternoon.
I know, right? Nap time.
Absolutely, yes. But yeah, thank you so much for that for those suggestions and that feedback. I think yes, it is very important. There's also, of course, the limitations of today's world when it comes to inclusion, because I have seen it happen quite some time. And I know that we are behind when it comes to technology and accessibility. But how do you see moving forward, I don't know, 10, 20, 50 years in the future? How do you see the technology helping people with a disability or people specifically in the visually impaired community?
So, right now it's a pretty darn good time to be blind when it comes to technology. I think about all the people who paved the way long before me, I just think about my 20 years about how much technology's evolved. And, I remember how excited I was when the candy bar style phones with the Zoom and the original voices was on it. I remember the first touch one that I had. It was an HP iPad. And, it had the little slate and stylus thing, and you had to segment off the screen. I couldn't wait to try that. But I tell you, in 2009, when Apple came out with their 3GS phone, I tell you, I bought that phone just to prove them wrong, because I was like, there's no way it's accessible out of the box. I didn't go to sleep for 2 days because I was like, I'm going to find it. But we still have a long ways to go in technology. Mainstream technologies really are light years ahead of where they were 20 years ago. But there's still those specialized pieces that we really need. And I think that we'll get there. The more that we can make this inclusive and think about universal design, where this is just built into everything, the better off society is. I remember, back in like 2004, I think I did my very first PowerPoint presentation, and as a person who was blind, and I went out there and I went to SUNY IT. They did, they were doing information technology degrees, and I did it, and it was called curb cuts. And so I talked about how curb cuts are done in sidewalks, and it was put there for people in wheelchairs specifically, but then you have bikes and buggies and baby carriages that are all using those. And so those curb cuts significantly helped people who needed it, but it advanced society as a whole. And I was laughing about this the other day. I was like, and someday we're going to be reading web pages on our phones. I just pulled that that PowerPoint presentation up the other day. It's like, someday we're going to be pulling up websites on our phone, and you're going to want the mobile users to have the easier form or the text version of that where they can read it. And golly, here we are. I mean, it's kind of one of those advanced things, but we knew that it was coming. Once everything can be built in where the accessibility is just built in and it's just a natural part of society, and there's so much of it now, but we do still have a long ways to go. I think more than the technology, because I think there's enough people out here concentrating on the technology, there's the other whole side of the technology, and it's the societal perception about where and what the capabilities are of people who are blind. And we have a person who just became employed, who's having difficulty with taking a federal test for HUD. And, once again, they say, oh, well, you're just going to have to do it with a magnifying glass. And, those are still things. And it's like, well, we don't know what your capabilities are in the office now that we have you and you have a visual impairment. If you can't take a test without an accommodation, how are you possibly? So we're still dealing with those stereotypes and misconceptions. But the more that we get out there and the more people that we have out in the field working, the more that we can break that down. So, I mean, there's multiple barriers that go along with that. But I think technology, I think there's a lot of awareness, and I think there's a lot of people out there like you who's working to make that technology better and make it affordable, make it inclusive for everybody, where it does benefit everybody.
Of course. Well, yeah, actually, um, specifically about the technology, and now that you're, of course, mentioning my work in my field, do you believe that technology years ago versus now, do you think it is helping people be more independent when it comes to, I don't know, jobs and, of course, navigation as well? Or what do you think?
I mean, we still know there's a high unemployment rate. And we know that there is a lack of funding, there's a lack of training to be able to get people to really where they need to go. And that's really where those obstacles come up. We can put all the technology in front of people that we want to, and if they're not properly trained on it, they just become paperweights. And I've seen it way too much through my career. It kind of needs to be a we need to attack it from multiple fronts to be able to get people not only the technology in their hands, but the training. And then also to be able to talk to those employers, to be able to say, this is what it is. And that's what we're out trying to do. We're out trying to, network with as many employers as what we can, because we're serving people from all over the United States at World Services for the Blind. So we try to have that. And I mean, we can't do it all. And that's why we need great partners like you and everybody else who's on there, is that, that's on the call, that we can say, hey, we're making a difference in our communities, and here's what we can do. Oh, it's thundering.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned training and technology as well. Uh, what else do you think is missing right now, or what else could, I don't know, companies such as my company do to kind of help reduce that unemployment rate?
Who? I don't know. I mean, I think that you're getting tools in people's hands, and you're getting affordable tools in people's hands. And I think it's just it's getting out there, and it's being seen, and it's talking about it. We're a low incidence disability with a high impact once we get somebody to work. We know that there's 75 million aging baby boomers that are out there. They're leaving the workforce at a steady rate, and there's not enough people to replace them. And we have so many people who have vision loss out there who can replace them. But if the first thing that they say when I walk in through the door, it's like, am I going to have to hire somebody to walk her to the bathroom? It's like, no, because they have great tools there that, that they can use.
I agree with you. Now, specifically, living in today's world, and
Ooh.
during this COVID situation, what has been your experience, your personal experience, and World Services for the Blind's experience as well?
So I think that we've been kind of in a bubble ourselves at World Services for the Blind. So, a little bit about what happened with our journey. Number one, we were the only, as far as I know, we were the only residential center in the United States serving people who are blind to remain open during COVID and take new admissions during COVID and keep our bubble safe enough that we didn't have anybody, knock on wood, we didn't have anybody who has contracted COVID either. So, what we did on March 11th, we locked down the campus, we restricted movement, even with some of our instructors who are blind and visually impaired, that they taught from home. We still ran classes. It took the NBA 133 pages to write their bubble. It took us 3 to talk about our bubble and how we were going to contain it. And we did. And like I said, we've remained safe. We're 6 months into this now. But on that outside world, I mean, it's still, when you think about where we're at, everybody's talking about social distancing and they're talking about, you got to stay in, it's hurt our folks because they're having a hard time getting services. The people that we have in residence right now, fine, there's some that's coming. We're able to use some of our partnerships in order to get some other people in, but we've had an interesting demographic, and I think this will speak to one of the questions that we'll have down the road, is that we have a scholarship program for people who don't qualify for state services. And that's kind of changed our demographic, because if you don't qualify for services, there's probably a reason for that. And traditionally, about 10% of our population has been homeless when they're admitted. On March 11th, when we locked down the campus, 33% of them were homeless. April through June, that rose to 50%. And today we're sitting at 65%. And I think that's because if they're not qualifying for services, there's a reason. If you can't articulate a vocational goal, VR isn't going to serve you. So who is? And so I'm thankful that we have a funder that actually funds this, because most of the time those people roll into a VR caseload, but you've got to take care of those, most basic needs. But, it's kind of funny when you relate, COVID to blindness. And so one of the things I've been doing is we have 4 words that we've heard the most often, and it's unprecedented, isolation, fear, and unemployment. Well, those are words that's being used in the media every day, but for us at WSB, and for those of us who's been in the blindness world, those are words that we've dealt with every day. We might not have articulated them that way, but, unprecedented. And it's something that's never been known before. You have fear, or you have isolation. And think about the words that go along with isolation: alone, secluded, segregated. This is stuff that our folks have dealt with every day. Fear. Imagine just waking up blind one day. And then unemployment. I mean, June 12th of this year, the Department of Labor reported 40 million people had filed for unemployment, bringing the nation's unemployment rate to 23.9%. We've been dealing with a 70% unemployment rate forever. And so, I mean, all the things that's unprecedented right now, it's really our normal. And as sad as that is to say, that, one of the things that I've said to people, that as I've done some traveling and I've done some of the Zoom webinars and stuff, is I hope people understand and get a little bit of perspective with this, through this, because this is something that is our everyday reality, that this has became reality for people, but people at the end, they're going to have their lives back to the same way that they were. Our people, I think, are going to be impacted harder because of the pandemic. So, if you look at our statistics that we've had and the number of people who's been homeless and have been admitted in, a lot of times people who are blind are living with family members, and their checks are helping to support a household. Well, if they get sick, if they lose their jobs, that family may lose their residence. And so what's the person who's blind going to do, who might have just a mere $400 a month or something that they're collecting?
Well, now regarding you were mentioning the 4 words that were the most mentioned during these past few months. And well, there's another one that's always well, it's not a word, but the concept of social distancing and your safe distance, a basically a concept now adopted worldwide, uh, telling people to stay away from each other because we don't want to get COVID and whatnot. How has that affected specifically our community as well?
So, I mean, when you think about social distancing, it's really not in our nature. I mean, if we need to go out to the store and we need an associate to help us, they're like, no, 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 we don't want to do that. But I mean, it's just difficult that until you're right up on somebody, whether with a dog or with a cane, I mean, you're going to be right there. And, I think that some of our old normal kind of went along well with the new normal, those of us who've been ordering groceries out and what have you. But, you get on a bus and I mean, I literally, so one of my director of education and training, Eric Yarberry, we were at the airport last week and he literally walked up to somebody and was probably a foot away from him and said, "Can you point me in the direction of the bathroom?" And that person just stood there. Didn't say a word, didn't say get out of my face, nothing. And so I told him that obviously at that point he was suffering from an invisible disability because he was obviously just invisible at that point in time. But I mean, people are just scared right now. And I think that, well, from my perspective, there's been a couple of weird things that's happened, and I'm going to share one of them because this is something that I've really kind of been concerned about. So, when I had my first opportunity to travel, it was back at the end of June, and I came back, and because I have a residential setting, and we know that a great deal of outbreaks happen in those congruent settings. And so I'm going to be extra careful. So I go out and I'm ready to sign up to get my first COVID test. I call and they say, well, you needed to go through the drive-through. I was like, I can't go through the drive-through. I can't just take the bus through that. I can't take paratransit. I can't take an Uber through. I was like, I need to be able to get it. And say, oh, well, you're just going to have to go do the drive-through. That's the only place we're set up to do it. I was like, wow. So what happens to all of our people out there who's maybe been exposed or is just worried or they need to be tested for whatever reason? What's happening to them? Who's out there advocating for, me, I have a big enough mouth. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to get it done. But I mean, it might be somebody who might say, well, I don't have any way to do it. And they may not know. I mean, there could be something else going on, or it could be, who knows? And so all of a sudden I was like, wow, I have all these resources available to me. I have great medical insurance. I have this, that, and the other, and I can't get services.
Right. I think something that you were mentioning about people kind of losing that empathy or that sensitive side, that actually I believe applies um everywhere, and that is something that will, I would say that will be one of the uh, sequels of COVID. The fact that you are now not comfortable getting near people, and you're now not comfortable walking next to people because they might be too close. Uh,
Right.
I think that's something that will be specifically or directly impacting our community. Not just now that this is happening, but you know, uh, I mean, the vaccines, of course, are being worked on right now, but I mean, we're still a long way from that.
Yeah, at least a year out, I would say.
Exactly. And well, of course, that's kind of the picture of what we are living on right now. Um, but what would be some suggestions, or some tips as to uh, how we could kind of live through this situation?
Ask for help. I mean, there's other ways that you can get help rather than just going to the store. There's a lot of, for the day-to-day living, there's so many people out there who are willing to help. For people, between Facebook and on Nextdoor. Whoever uses that app, they have help maps. And so if you're not a member of Nextdoor in your community, go out there and check out that app. And if you need help with groceries and what have you, use delivery services. Walmart has great delivery services. There's Amazon is it Whole Foods? Whole Foods through Amazon. You have Instacart. Be careful of some of those, because I know that we have, a limited amount of money that we can spend on food and what have you. And sometimes those are a lot more money to do. And so be careful of, what you're signing up for. Do a little bit of research. Ask a neighbor. There's nothing wrong with asking somebody to help. I remember one of my neighbors, when this first started, like 2 weeks in, I got calls from two of my neighbors, one that lives on either side of me. And they said, "Hey, you need anything at the store?" I said, "Dude, I'm fine." I said, "I appreciate it." And then I had another one down the street. It's like, "Will you teach me how to order groceries?" And they can see. And so, it's just one of those things. It's out there. And now that things have calmed down a little bit, we don't have the strain on the supply chain that we did at first. At first, it was almost impossible to get some of the food. But I'm finding, plan ahead and plan for extra if you can. Be careful, but ask for help. There's nothing wrong with it. This isn't gonna go away. And people who are blind are pretty inventive and creative, and they're going to continue to do that. There's some training if you don't know how to do something. Number one, if you don't have access to a computer, I'm going to put a shameless plug in for a partner organization, and that's Computers for the Blind, where you can get a very, very, very low cost computer. And we actually have one of their customer service agents who is on this call with us, Marcy Duty's on the call, and they offer low-cost computers that has all the adaptive technology. And then if you need help on how to use it, we're the partnering organization that provides the training through a scholarship program. So, that's one of the things that, you've got to be able to arm yourself with the right tools. And, if you didn't think that you needed it before, you really do now. But and it's not just the supplies and the services, but moving into telehealth. How are you going to do that? And if you don't have the right means to be able to access that, you need to find that training somewhere. And that's not always something that VR can cover for you, but there's other ways to do that. We have scholarship programs out there. We can help. I always tell people that we might not be the answer to what you have going on, but we can probably help you find the answer. And so you can always give us a call.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I would say that's one of the most important things. If you don't know how to do something, you should know the person that does it. So I think it's great that you are able to connect people to the right person, right? Um, Now, well, of course, at the beginning, you were talking a bit about the navigation and the mobility as well. And I know that you are a Guido user. You have your dog, and you are also a Sunu band user as well.
Look at
And
that right there. And it even matches my shirt. See?
yes, yeah, it
Got a
does. You
purple band on it, and I got my tie-dye shirt on. So
absolutely, yes. And actually, so that everybody can have a better idea, I actually, well, it has been a while since I approached your organization. We did talk, and at some point you did explain, you know what, you're a little late because I already know about you. I already have the Sunu band. Uh, but yeah, could you tell me more about your experience? Of course, combining your dog for your navigation with the band.
So, I love my Sunu band, and I was trying to figure out how long I've had it. I bought it the summer of 17. So I mean, I've used it, and it's a wonder I've not worn it out. I mean, as much as it gets bumped and bruised around. And so whether with a guide dog or with a cane, because I travel with both, I obviously use the guide dog more than anything, but I have been known to go out and, whip my cane around. But one of the things that's really good with the guide dog, and one of the things I really love partnering the guide dog with the Sunu band, is you have those overhead obstacles that you deal with all the time. And the dog, because of how their eyes are positioned, they're not the best at those overhangs. The Sunu band picks it up, and a lot more frequently. And so with the scanning, that there's something coming up, and he might be planning it already, but I'm getting that feedback. But let me tell you, in the world of social distancing, it's awesome, because I could be coming up, or somebody could be coming up toward me, and I just simply can put my hand, because they want to come up and pet my dog. I know what it is, but as they start to get closer and that thing starts to vibrate, because it's got that really subtle haptic feedback. And as they get a little bit closer, because I know they're coming, because the dog's already reacting like, oh, hey, come on over here. And as that starts to vibrate, I said, will you please stay 6 feet away? I said, I'm visually impaired, and I said, I don't want you touching my dog. And then at that point, they're like, oh, man, we thought she was blind. Well, something, hey, technology is a great thing. The tools that make up for the loss of vision is great. So, I mean, there's so many ways that you can use that. And even around the house, or if you go out to somebody else's house, a relative's house or something, rather than having to have that cane in your hand all day, it's going to pick those obstacles up. And it's just, I just love trying it sometimes, finding stuff on a desk or something like that. Do I wear it all the time? Absolutely, positively not. I don't need it on all the time, but I tell you, it's never far from me. And, although I did have fun training my guide dog on how to stop on the social distancing circles, when you have one every 6 feet walking down a hallway and they stop and sit on it, there's a problem with that. He doesn't understand that he needs to go to the one that's 6 foot away from the other person. The dog doesn't know it. If you're using your cane and you've got a 48-inch cane, you're not 6 feet away. So, but there's settings, and it pairs with your iPhone. I don't know about Android, but it pairs up with your iPhone. You can set the settings to how far away you want it. And I have a tendency to make mine a little bit further away, because it gives me a little bit of forewarning, rather than with them being right there on my face. And then I can say, hey, hold on. Or if I'm just in the store, the dog and I walk up to the store, and we're in there, I can detect how far along I am, and I can kind of keep it, and I can keep him under control, and I can give him the proper commands to do it. Just where I'm like, just stop it. And so, I mean, it's a great tool. And so it's followed me around now for 3 years. It's got a lot of miles on it. It really does. So, and it's durable. And there's just so many things. And, you're always adding stuff to it. And, I think you should do a shameless commercial at this point in time about some of the stuff that you've added to it. I mean, because it's just awesome. I mean, in the last 3 years, I've watched this grow, and it's been fun watching that. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, thanks so much for that feedback, and I speak for the company as well. We're very happy that you do enjoy, and that you do find it useful. Very important what you were mentioning about combining the tool with your wide cane or your guide dog, because yes, that's actually the main reason or why the Sunu band was created. Um, I don't know. I'm just going to do a little explanation of the product. So, the Sunu Band, for the people that don't know about it, is a smartwatch for people who are visually impaired. So you would wear it on your wrist like any other watch, and it has a sensor that aligns to your thumb. That way, when you're walking, you don't have to do any movements, and it already picks up everything in front of you, right? So there's actually a few people that have already exemplified this, and that's what I do now. I exemplify this as an invisible white cane on your wrist. So that's precisely the best explanation, or how people would understand the purpose of it. So you have an invisible white cane on your wrist, and that's basically protecting your upper body. You kind of trail, or you do have the option of scanning whatever's in front of you, and of course there's always um, the possibility of customizing the range. So in this case, Sharon, you were mentioning that you have it at 6 feet, and I think that's encouraged right now for the social distancing part. Um, uh, how it would translate, and in order for people to better understand, is you have vibrations on your wrist, and they are real-time vibrations. So depending on how close or how far you are from an object or a person, that's the amount of vibrations that you will get. So let's say that you're not getting vibrations at all. That means that there's nothing in front of you for your upper body area. But let's say that you start approaching someone and the vibration slowly starts increasing. That means that the person is either approaching you, and you already know, if you already have it at 6 feet, you already know that they're crossing your safe distance, right? And what you were mentioning, yes, right now we have both for Android and for iOS. We're actually about to launch the new version, the Sunu app 2.0, and then that will have a lot more features. But yeah, that's actually a little explanation of the Sunu band as well, for the people that didn't know about it. I do see a few familiar faces and names here. But yeah, thank you so much for your feedback, Sharon. And well, I also wanted to do a little um, Q&A. I don't know if what you think, Sharon, but I wanted to hear from everyone right here today, and I wanted to know about their questions, if they have any. Otherwise, we can continue with our conversation.
Yeah. Hey, let's see if they have any questions.
Order. Mute. Currently unmuted. Alt plus.
Hi, Terry.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent. But how about yourself?
I'm doing fine. I'm still in flux. I'm trying to figure out where to move to, but that's irrelevant to this webinar. Either New England is too expensive or Arkansas is cheaper, but problem with Arkansas, be away from my family and my brother, but I'm still contemplating. It's cheaper.
So Terry, hey Terry, you got any questions about the Sunu band and that technology?
The what band?
The Sunu band.
Yeah, I'd like to know what that is. I don't know what the heck that is.
Yeah, it would work awesome with you and Cece together. You wouldn't hit that noggin of yours.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, it gives I'll let Diego give the more technical side of it, but it
Okay.
is, it uses like sonar that detects
Yeah.
stuff that's like at chest and head level, and it's kind of like your cone of uncertainty, like when they're talking about storms, and it's like all those areas where you run into stuff, because you know how CC looks forward, and you might get slapped in the head with a tree branch. That'll help you pick it up. And so you wear it on your right wrist, because you'd be using CC with your left hand.
Yep.
And if you're approaching a tree branch and she's just barreling through, you can slow her down, and you can do like a protective measure where you can get your arm up in the air, and so you don't knock yourself out on the tree again.
How much does it cost?
It's great price for what you get for it. Diego, why don't you pipe in on that? I gave the blind person perspective of how I use it with a guide dog, and I know that he has the cutest guide dog named Cece.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, it's great, and I did wanted to hear how you would present, or how you would explain the Sunu band, Sharon, because maybe I get too technical, but specifically answering your question, Terry. what I was mentioning is that you could exemplify it as an invisible white cane for your upper body. So uh, there, the technology behind it is uh, doing kind of an invisible force. Of sound, so back and forth, sound already gives you the feedback of whatever's in front of you, and you will feel it automatically on your wrist. So if it's constant vibrations, it means that there's something in front of you or someone in front of you, and you already know that you should be aware of your head, and of course protect, as Sharon was mentioning, right? Uh, Talking about the price, it's $299. That's the price that we currently have for the Sunu band. And another question, or something that I wanted to mention as well, is that the Sunu band is a rechargeable device, right? So you would charge it, and depending, of course, on how much you use it and how many hours per day you use it. I would say the battery would last you for a couple of hours, few hours if you're constantly using it. Uh, but again, depending on the usage, you simply recharge it. I don't know if that gives you a better idea, Terry.
Yeah, where can I buy the device? Can you send me the link by email?
Yes, of course. I will send you the email. It's actually very simple, so you can visit sunu.com. I will spell that out. It is sunu.com. Absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Excellent, excellent presentation. I'm waiting for the book, for Sharon to write the book from manufacturing to CEO, and that's
Currently in use.
awesome. Great presentation about the Sunu band. Is Sunu the only place you can purchase it, or are there United States distributors for it?
We do have partners within the U.S. Depending on your area, I can go ahead and um, share a specific partner or a specific organization that could help you get or trial the Sunu band. But yes, we do have partners within the U.S. that represent our brand and the Sunu band as well.
Okay, I'm in Texas, and thank you, Sharon, for Computers for the Blind endorsement there.
Oh, of course, I'm going to put in a shameless commercial for my
I
partner.
loved it. That was awesome.
Hey, Diego, I have a question that the audience might be interested in. Do you provide free technical support and training when somebody purchases a Sunu band?
Great question, and yes, we do have a toll-free number. We have a toll-free number, and we have a team that specializes on customer success. So how it usually works is we, of course, ship out the product. You do have a little booklet. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you still have it, with a few words in Braille, of course.
Currently in use it.
But you can actually kind of go straight to the tutorials. And if you still have questions, we do have a team that specializes on kind of onboarding you and helping you get the best idea of the Sunu band.
Right, because you don't want it to be a paperweight when people get it in their hands, because then they're going to say, oh, that darn Sunu band, they just don't know what they're doing. And yeah, so and they're very helpful. I mean, it doesn't matter how tech savvy you are, every once in a while you run into that thing. And it's like, I just don't understand how it's supposed to work or how it's supposed to feel, because really, I mean, it's a different concept when you think about it. And if you can have somebody who explains that on the other, it's like, oh, okay, I feel that when I swipe up or I swipe down, now I understand what the words were telling me. I just couldn't translate that into how it felt, because it does take time to get used to using the Sunu band. I mean, it's not just a natural thing that happens. Directions are very clear, but every once in a while we get these own obstacles that block us. And I think any of us who are iOS users and who uses, anything from the Fitbits to the Apple iWatches, that we're used to some of that haptic feedback. And so I think that, maybe 3 years ago, it wasn't as prevalent as what it is now. And it took me a little while to really understand what that haptic feedback was giving me. But, now I just kind of feel naked if I'm out going somewhere without it. And I'm like, oh man, I forgot my Sunu. I left it on the charger. Darn it. And you know what? One of the things about the charging of it is it's really easy. Is it a micro SD? I always get or micro USB. It's a micro USB, and so it's really easy to plug in, and it's right on the back side of it. It's not much bigger than what your iWatch is, for those of you who's out there wearing an iWatch. It's not a whole lot bigger than that, and it just feels good on the wrist. And so, and it doesn't weigh anything. I mean, so it's not, it's lighter than the iWatch. And the beauty of it is, I mean, it's just another tool, but it's a tool that you can afford, and it's a tool that's useful. So if you're tired of running into, the corners of street signs and overhanging trees, I suggest you go out there and get a Sunu.
Diego, are there YouTube videos or podcasts or something we can listen to get a sample of, I mean, I hear Sharon's experience and it sounds wonderful, but to hear the band in action?
Yeah, of course. We do have testimonials, and we do have tutorials as well, specifically on our YouTube channel. But we do have worked with other YouTubers that may be specifically talking about assistive technology, or they kind of do videos for other audiences. But yes, we actually do have some resources on YouTube as well. Sunu Inc. That's how you would be able to find us. I can definitely share everyone the link.
And you're on Facebook, Diego.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Everybody can find us on social media as well. Sunu Inc. Just typing it on their browser or their search history for Facebook or Instagram, the Twitter as well. Yeah, we need to be on social media as well, right?
That's right. And you got some great resources that you put out there, and you got some great inspiring articles that you put out there. So I suggest that y'all go out there and like them today, and go out there and read some of the stuff, because I mean, you talk extensively about things that are going on in the blindness community. And, there's like that great story out there about the architect who found a better job after he went blind. And there's just so many inspiring stories out there. And there really are inspiring stories, but as you guys go along, you have your own community then, when you can go and look, and you'll know when there's changes that's coming about. And, there's some of us who are early adopters, and I'm always one of those, because I love to see technology when it comes out. I love to get my hands on it. And then you have the ones that you need to wait a little bit longer, and you need to say, okay, well, I'm going to see how this works. And, I'm going to let the first suckers run it through its paces. So, you can go out there and you can try it out. You can even use one of the other partner agencies like Be My Eyes or IRA. You can get it for 5 minutes for free and have them take a video of you using it. And I mean, you could do your own testimonial, and maybe Diego will, help you become a commercial for them and promote you out there, or promote your organization out there.
Absolutely. Yes, that's actually a great idea. And anybody who does that, please reach out to me. Yes, we're always happy to get feedback and testimonials, of course. And Sharon, now that you were mentioning that part, I'm just curious, because you were mentioning being an early adopter. And of course, the Sunu band that you have in your hands was actually one of the first, if not the first, generation that came out. So how was your experience? And well, of course, as you were mentioning, and that's actually accurate, people who are not familiar with these type of technology may need a few more days or weeks, depending on how much they use it, to kind of adapt and fully understand the navigation. I'm going to call it the navigation, or the obstacle detection. But yeah, what was your experience there?
So I just kind of ran it through its paces. We went through, we read the instructions, I put it on, and it wasn't, it didn't come intuitively at first, but the instructions are clear, and I knew that I had that technical support that was back there that I could say, I just don't understand this. And they're very patient, and they're going to walk you through it. But I mean, all of a sudden, it's like when I got it, that light bulb moment. And it's like all of a sudden when somebody gets something, and any of you who are, do technology training, or if you're out there and you help a friend do something, or you do something, and it's like when you get that moment, it's like, oh my God, I get it. And when it did, I was like, oh my God. And so then I'm walking around and I'm trying everything, I'm trying to detect something that's on a counter, or, you try to find the openings to the doors. Like when you're walking down a hallway, like if you're using a cane and somebody says, well, it's the fourth door on your right. And literally when you can feel those openings, and you can feel how that detects it. I mean, you can get pretty micro with it. And, just go out and have fun, go out and explore, get out, get off your couch and get out. This will help you do it.
Absolutely. Great tip right there. Of course, following the precautionary measures, but yeah,
But
take a
you can
little
stay 6
walk.
foot away. I mean, you've got the tool in your hand, you got the tool on your wrist to be able to do it.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks so much for that feedback. And well, I don't know if anyone else has any questions. Otherwise, we will be wrapping up today's episode with Sharon. But yeah, anyone else has any feedback or any questions?
Is there anybody in the chat, Lee? I don't see anybody, huh?
Currently unmuted. Oh, class saver. Visual and
Oh,
Yeah.
there's Terry again, I bet you.
Yep. I thought your presentation was pretty good. I liked it.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate you getting on. And
Sure.
so for anybody who wants it, in the chat box, I'm going to put out my email address. And Diego, why don't you put your email address, or the information address, but y'all can contact me directly if you want to. Go out and like Sunu on Facebook, and go and check them out on all of their social media sites. And, if you have any questions about from the user standpoint, you can feel free to reach out to me, or, if you glean something out of this and you want to know more about training, I'll do the shameless plug again for World Services for the Blind. We're at wsblind.org. We're the most comprehensive vocational training center in the world. You can go out and check out our programs. We have scholarships that's specifically for independent living if you need some help, but VR won't help you. We're also the only program in the nation that accepts single parents. So if you know of somebody who's a single parent that can't go to a program because they don't have anybody to take care of their children, we'll help you navigate that path as well. And all of our programs are also offered online. And like I said, we have our other partner organization, Computers for the Blind. And so, I know Diego and I know WSB, we're all about connecting resources. If you need a low-cost computer, and low cost isn't low quality, folks. You get great computers through them. And I have a connection. My very first computer as a person who is blind came from Texas Computers for the Physically Impaired, which is now Computers for the Blind. So, that was one of the first things that I gave up. And before VR could buy mine, I went out and I bought a $100 computer that had everything on it. And so Marcy is one of the customer service agents that you'll talk to, and she's right there too. And she's right here on this call. So, you have a great community, and we're all going to rally around each other. And if you know of anybody who needs anything and you need the resources, Sunu and WSB together, we can get it done, and we can help you to detect and remove the obstacles from your life. How's that, Diego?
Love it.
That was fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And well, Sharon, I do want to thank you again for taking the time first and sharing those amazing tips, experiences, and what would be a final. I'm gonna call it a final tip or a final uh, suggestion for anybody out there listening to this webinar.
I have one more question.
Leave.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yes, Terry.
Now, what's your website? sunu.com?
Correct. Yes, that's sunu.com, and my email diego@sunu.com.
Yeah, but they'll put that in the links when Sharon sends it out,
Yeah, I'll
right?
send it to you, Terry.
Yeah, Suni, SUNI.com. Okay.
SUNU.
Thanks.
Like Sunu, SUNU.com. I'll send it to you,
Thanks.
Terry. I'll send it to you myself. I'll text it to you, okay?
All right, thanks, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Yep.
And so the last bit of advice that I would give to anybody that, don't put limits on yourself. And you don't have to do it by yourself. There's so many resources that are available. There's so many things that you can do. And know that, there's times that we get discouraged because people have a preconceived notion on what our capabilities are. And they might say to you that something's impossible because you're blind. Just remember that impossible actually spells out I am possible. And so, together we can make it possible, and let's go forward, and let's continue to navigate 2020 and go into 2021 and make your next chapter your best chapter.
Perfect. I like that part. Yes, let's make 2021 our next chapter, of course. And again,
it's got to get better, man. It's got to get better.
Yeah, at some point it needs to be better, and it will get better, of course. We just need to be patient and
That's right.
work with
Wear
what
your
we
mask,
have.
social distance, get on Zoom. And look, we can even give each other hugs on Zoom. See?
Absolutely, yes. Okay, perfect. Well, and thank you everyone that joined this call. I hope I know that you got a lot of insights today, and you already have information from World Services for the Blind. You already have information from Sunu as well. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions or any feedback for us. And well, you all have an excellent day. Okay.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Stay safe. Put
All
your
right.
mask on. Bye. Thanks,
Bye
Diego.
now. Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah.
Have an excellent
Bye.
day.
Bye, Terry. Bye, Marcy. Bye, everybody.